What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. Yes, sir, with your boy, Mike Goodwin. And as I start each and every podcast the same way, I'm not going to change it today. We start with the On the Road Again segment. Now, I haven't been on the road this weekend or this week. It happens. There are times when I am home with my family. Sometimes people ask me typically, hey man, where you at this week? And personally, if I don't have a place to tell them, it feels like a little letdown. Be like, hey man, where you at this week? And I'm like, oh man, I'm at the crib. I'm at the house this week. It's like, oh, you ain't going nowhere? And I'm like, I'm going places. Just say I gotta be out every week. So I guess for the last 2 weeks, no work. Well, a lot of work. No travel. Which, man, I used to like really enjoy these times when I wasn't on the road, which I still do, but it goes so quick. It's similar to, I haven't just worked a 9 to 5 and that be it for a long time. So when I was working at the job I had before doing comedy full time, I was doing comedy and I was in the reserves. So there was very little me time, like weekends. I know I always had one that was off the calendar. Then I worked at the University of South Carolina before I started working at the school. So sometimes there would be weekend stuff that may be work related. I work with student organizations, so a lot of times we may have had a leadership conference or a leadership retreat. Maybe there was a banquet or an evening program. There was often things, maybe even like a football, like during the football season, I have football tickets. So the football game, like that was a social event, but it was a little bit work related. It was a little kind of work related, right? So now but I can kind of vaguely remember the weekends, and the weekends, they just go fast. They go fast. So that's been the case. I've not been able, oftentimes in the past, I would be thinking about, oh, I got these upcoming 2 weeks. I'm going to get all this stuff done. I'm getting stuff done, but it's not over and above what typically would get done, except for rest. But I'm able to get a good amount of rest. Now, y'all have been listening to me a while. If you know me for a while, one of the things that I take great pride in, I try to make quality decisions. I don't even like that try part. But it's my goal to make quality decisions. I don't think I made the best decision this weekend. I have a son. I have a 13-year-old son. I'm a member of a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, Phi Nu Pi, Diamonds in the Sky. Anyway, I'm part of this organization, and our organization has a male youth mentoring program. The umbrella of it is called the Guide Right. So all the initiatives under Guide Right are plentiful. There's a lot of things under Guide Right. But one of the things that's under Guide Right is something that my son's affiliated with. Is called the Kappa League. And basically, Kappa League is for young men. The ages range from about 13, maybe 12, maybe the youngest, but about like middle school age, 8th grade age to high school. And it's basically a form of I wouldn't even say abbreviated version of the fraternity. It's like a bite-size experience of the fraternity for young men. It's very watered down but it looks much like I would think a beta club or a club that was specifically designed to help young people with leadership. And that's basically what happens. This is my son's first year. So, we kick off the year around August, September, and every month there's some emphasis. One of the months was a college visit. So they went to the University of South Carolina. Another month was we had a person from law enforcement come in and talk about the dangers of online posting and cybersecurity as it relates to the rules and laws about things that young people are typically engaged with, social media, maybe online bullying, sexting, like all these things. And he gave a legal perspective and what the laws are in South Carolina and how you must conduct yourself as a young person. We've done Dress for Success workshops. I think we also went down to Charleston for visiting the African American History Museum. So great program. And yesterday we had our finale for the year, our family day. And we had 5 seniors. 4 of them were there. All 4 of these young men are going to universities. One's going to North Carolina A&T. There's another one going to Winthrop. 2 were going to the University of South Carolina. One was not there, so I don't know where he will be attending. But we heard about them and their majors. And one of the things that we did, we had a basketball game, a 101, not 101, but a mentees versus mentors. This is where the not such a quality decision comes in. If you know me, I tore my Achilles back in, I think it's 2017. So it's been a number of years playing basketball. When I did that, my basketball days were wrapped up. After tearing an Achilles, I kind of put my basketball playing days on the shelf. Now, basketball is my first love. I've played basketball my entire life, not at very particularly high level, but I played consistently. That was my hobby. That was my go-to. That was how I let off steam. I was always in the gym. I was always playing intramurals when I got to college. When I was in the Army, we would have our post team. I played on the post team, well, our unit team. Long life lover of basketball, right? And I can play. Like I can play. Wasn't a Division I athlete, wasn't being recruited, but I can ball. Like I get it. I get it in. If we, especially like I'm thinking like my time, I'm a presence in the paint. I'm a guard that's a post mentality. I'm a big guard, and I'm not even a big guard because I'm probably the size of folks that play at a very high level. I'm probably a point guard size. I'm probably a good solid point guard, but I want to be Ben Wallace. Like I want to be down there yucking it up, mixing it up. My scoring territory is anything free throw line inward. I'm the mid-range assassin, right? And I play hard. I'm strong, athletic, all those things. But I'm also 48 years old. And you shouldn't be out there. You shouldn't be out there. Now, to keep it like cliff notes, because again, I let time will jump on by us, and I'll be talking about this basketball game. But basically, what happened? My fraternity brothers and I, which there was a number of issues. Number one, we played in this rubber court. I don't like rubber courts. Don't like them at all. The other problem was I'm not in basketball conditioning. I lift weights. I do cardio. Like my cardio consists of probably 5 times a week. I do 30 minutes on a Stairmaster with a weight vest at about level 5 or 6. Nice 300 calorie burn. I'll probably, walk the neighborhood with that same weight vest, or I may jump rope for 20 minutes. I may possibly run for 20 minutes here and there, 30-minute run, but that's not as common as it once was, right? So I'm not in basketball shape by no stretch of the imagination. Now, we didn't play full court, but we did play those little side full court, and that was enough for me. So I'll say this. We won. We definitely won. We were not good. My team, the brothers that are mentors, they are not ball players. They have not been ball players. Like I'm not, people marvel at LeBron James at 38. And to me, 38 is young. So I can't even imagine. But had I not been on that team, we would have lost them young boys. I probably had, I wouldn't keep his stats. And I was talking to my family last night because my wife and my daughter and everybody went. Initially, we did say we were going to 12, but I guess somewhere along the way we moved it to 16. So had we stopped at 12, them young boys would have won. But I don't think we were trying to cheat them or anything. I think that we're like, hey, man, we're just going to play one game. We should play the 16. Because we were pretty optimistic when we first started. Like, this would be the first of maybe a 3-game series. No, we're playing one game. Let's play 16, and I'm out of here. Like, this is it for me. But I probably had 9 points. Like, had I not been on that team, them young boys would have lost. But my son hit like a 3-pointer off the back of the backboard. And it was one of those things where, like, my son was on another team, and he was in nowhere land. And I was like, shoot it. Not for my son to hit the shot. And he hit the shot. I was talking trash more than anything. And he hit the shot. But we beat him. And my body feels like it played basketball yesterday. Now, and I'm not in any type of, my back. But, it's tight. It's very tight because I'm very active, but I'm not basketball active. I'm not quick stop run, like, nah. So I gave a lot of offensive effort. My defensive effort was pretty trash. I was pretty trash. I can't give you offense and defense. My main goal was to not get hurt. I didn't do that. Didn't injure myself. I didn't want to get my glasses broken. That was a very important part. And I didn't want to lose. I'm not going to lie. I'm very competitive. Once I get out there, it don't matter that I'm in a 48-year-old body. Even though that 48-year-old boy, I went and took a little, I subbed somebody in. I was like, hey, man, I can't. What am I doing? But I put the team on my back. But it wasn't a quality decision. Yeah, it wasn't a quality decision. So, yeah, just wanted to share that with y'all on the road again. But I am on the road this week. I'm off this week also. But the following week, I'm doing a commencement speech. I'll be speaking at a high school graduation. So I got to put that talk together. Put that talk together this week and go down and have some words of encouragement with the young folks down. I think that it is in Jasper County. I forgot the specific city. I think Hardyville, South Carolina, which is a charter school down there that I will be delivering the commencement speech. So that's coming up. All right. So let's get to the part of this podcast that we've all been waiting for. The name of the podcast, The Best Advice Ever podcast. And my best advice, I typically will go back and review previous podcasts, make sure I'm not doing the same best advice. I don't think I've done this, and I didn't do the due diligence to go and look, but I don't think I've done this podcast. But I may be mistaken. I may be mistaken. If I am mistaken, I'm sorry. But hopefully I'll give you some more insight in this advice. And the advice that I'm offering you is to get a hobby. Get yourself a hobby, man. As I often say, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to everybody else. Get a hobby. So I recently was out of town a couple of weeks ago doing Big Dad Energy Tour. And I was in Nashville, and I stayed at a buddy's house. A buddy of mine, he's a comedian, very successful comedian who really gave me a great opportunity by having me on the road with him for a number of years on his platform, John Chris. I stayed at John Chris's crib. John Chris at the time, he was out of town, so he was not in Nashville. I stayed at his crib, and I noticed when I was there, he had a drum set in his office. Now, I hadn't been to his house in some, maybe a couple of years, and the last time I was there was no drum set. Now, John and I used to travel back in the day. We had some comedy runs, like Bootstrap. Like we got those back in the day stories. Like we go way. And one of the things that we would do, we would have one rental car and we'd be in there together. We would listen to Bill Burr's podcast. Bill Burr is a phenomenal comedian, probably one of the top 5 in the working comics of this era, right now. Even he's big dog. But Bill was talking about playing the drum, I think he was a drummer and knew drums, but he wanted to learn how to play drum. He played drums as a pastime, as a hobby. He would even, drums are, I think music is the thing. Like you can find a music store, or you can find somewhere where you can rent drums for a little bit and play. And that was giving him an outlet, a creative outlet. It was giving him an opportunity to take his mind off of things. And I saw that John had this drum set. I said, hey, man, this is what the big dog successful comedians are doing to get new hobbies. Because I know he plays golf. But that was an interesting thing, which made me think. A lot of ideas I've gotten while I've seen John do some things. I was like, I need to get my hobby game up because I don't have like a legit hobby. Like if you ask me, like my main hobby is going to the gym. I feel like Jeremy, you need to play that, like the losing sound from The Price Right. Wah, 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 wah. I like the gym. It's a stress reliever, but I think for a legit hobby, it should be something disconnected to your profession, your work, because that's what comedy was. Comedy was kind of something I was doing on the side. So it was a great breakaway from my typical 9 to 5. And some people, comedy that it plays that role to them. It's not that to me. It's comedy is all encompassing, right? So now the gym may have more to do with comedy than it does me just relaxing, because I'm not only going to the gym to work out stress and to have an outlet, but I want to have a particular type of physique. I want to look a particular way. I want my clothing to fit a particular way, which is directly connected to comedy. So the gym and comedy have kind of merged themselves into what used to just be like, for me, relaxing. Now I'm in there looking for a particular thing. I'm trying to lose pounds, make sure my jacket fit a particular way. I want an impressive stature or impressive physique. When I walk out on stage, I want folks to have positive thoughts about me. I want them to say, man, this guy is a disciplined person. Man, this guy goes and works out. Man, this guy's physically fit. Like that's not just a byproduct. Like that's something I want to espouse. Interesting enough, it's something that people don't talk about, especially show business and entertainers. If you look at like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Dave Chappelle is an example. Dave Chappelle looked like he got jacked a few years ago. But Chris Rock, Seinfeld, like the old school Kevin Hart's super fit guy and working out. But Chris Rock, I don't necessarily think Chris Rock is killing it in the gym, but Chris Rock has to be monitoring his calorie intake. He has to be doing some form of cardio. Maybe he walks, maybe he does some jump rope, maybe he plays tennis. Like he's doing something that maintains his current, the way he looks. Seinfeld, same way they got, but they don't talk about it. These guys, I'm watching this I'm watching this show on HBO called Hacks. It's about this female comedian who is, getting up in age, but is relevant and is trying to stay relevant. And one of the things she's not, doesn't do a lot of eating of stuff that she like to eat, like cake. Like she'll take a little piece of cake, but there's this level of Hollywood celebrity show business that, hey man, you got to look a particular way. I remember someone saying in an interview, talking to a comedian, the guy by the name of Pete. I think it's Pete. What's Pete's name? But Pete has a podcast. He had an HBO show for a little while, and basically Pete wasn't in shape, and his agent basically said, you either gain 50 more pounds and just be the out of shape guy, or hey man, you lose weight. Like, but you can't be in this like weird sort of kind of spot, like either be obese or get yourself within some, some great shape. So that is kind of, I don't know why I went down this long rabbit hole with that, but that's how the gym did not become a hobby to me. So I would encourage you to get a hobby that's not associated with what your work is. I got a buddy of mine, he's podcast. He's bowling. He gets his bowling on. It's a hobby. Got a cousin I talk to pretty regularly. Pickleball. Cousin plays pickleball. So you may be like saying, Mike, what are the references? What are the benefits of having a hobby? That's a great question. Stress relief. It just causes you to take your mind off things. I think one of my hobbies can be watching Netflix series, but that's just not productive. That's just not productive. So I do kind of binge watch and watch some things, but you need to do a hobby that you're engaged. You're not passive. That you're actively engaged in this hobby. That's something that maybe requires mental energy, physical energy. Again, some people play tennis, some people play golf, pickleball, all the things, but you want to do something that is just a stress reliever. Personal development. If you spend some time developing in this particular skill, like you'll grow. My buddy, John, he's not gonna be a drummer, but if he becomes skilled at drumming, it'd be cool to play the drums. Maybe he could sit in on his favorite band. If they like, man, we love your comedy, I love your music. Man, I play drums. Can I play open a concert or play a solo with you one time? Great experience, right? It's a creativity boost. Opens your brain cells, those your neutrons and the different paths. It opens up ideas and you give yourself opportunity to see things in a different manner, right? Social connections. Oftentimes, if you have a hobby, you can connect with other people that enjoy the hobby. That's a great opportunity to connect with others. And last but not least, just your mental well-being, right? It just improves your mental well-being. And so I will share with you my after I saw that drum set and I talked to him, I said, hey man, what's going on with the drums? And he was just basically reaffirming that, yeah, man, I just need something that is something separate away from comedy. It doesn't have to be comedy related. And I said, man, I'm gonna get a hobby. And I kind of been flirting with golf a little bit, and I'm probably sure I'll start teeing it up again. But what I have committed to is chess. I'm a chess player. My father taught me how to play chess, and I've had the knowledge of chess for very, very, very many years. I hadn't really been serious about chess. Didn't really take it to a level that I've kind of desired because I'm so competitive. I want to Bobby Fischer it, right? I want to spend nights reading all these chess games and learn all these openings and all. I'm not doing all that, but I did hire a coach. Got myself a chess coach. Again, I'm always cracking jokes about Columbia not being a real city. but we have an actual chess club in Columbia, and it's pretty amazing. There's a chess club. There's about 70 chess boards in there. They have these open runs. I'm gonna call it open runs. That's what we call basketball play. But they have free play on Thursday nights. Friday nights they have tournaments. I think Tuesday nights they're gonna have kids night. So I'm gonna take my son to a few kids nights. But this is my hobby. If he decides he wants to get a little serious with chess, that's on him. I'm not gonna mandate that. I might have him play. We might play more around the house just so I can play more. But yeah, chess. Get my chest on. Get your chest on. So that's what I'm doing. That's the hobby that I have selected. So I encourage you. The best advice ever is to get yourself a hobby. Yes, sir. Now, before we wrap up, before we get out of here, the mind of Mike. Got something on my mind, man. Got a few things on my mind. I want to have this conversation with y'all because I've had it with a buddy of mine. Got into it, I got a comedian buddy of mine. We talk pretty regular, but we got into a little heated discussion out of nowhere. Pretty heated discussion. And I've had this conversation with a few people, but it never really culminated. It always felt, one of the times I remember I had it, and I might have talked about it on the podcast, was online. Somebody confronted me about this. When me and my buddy got into it, I was saying something to him. I called him after I left the gym, and I was like, yeah, that's how we do it in the South. My buddy's from Houston, Texas. He was like, you ain't the South. So therein, we got a problem, right? So, I've had this conversation with people. I've seen some things on the internet about what is the South, right? And for whatever reason, people that are not me tell me that South Carolina is East Coast, it's Southeast, it's not South. And internally, I've not been able to track with that. It doesn't make sense. It's very disorienting. Now, I understood why. I didn't understand why I was having this discussion with my buddy, but I understand now after I spent some time ruminating on it. Okay, and even talking about South Carolina and Columbia's not being a real city. The reason I have such an adamant or I don't know how we were taught as a young person being from South Carolina, but one of the things I'm very clear about is that South Carolina, when the United States of America was created, South Carolina was one of the 13 original colonies. So in my mind, when we're talking about the South, we are the original South. Because in this conversation I was having with my buddy, he's on, is Florida the South? Huh? Is this place the South? He was like, Texas. I'm like, yo, again, when we were having this conversation, I didn't know to say, hey man, when South Carolina became a state, y'all were North Mexico. You wasn't. Texas didn't become a state until 57 years after South Carolina. We have been moving around, not even thinking about what y'all got going on out there. Now, was I around back there during them times? I was not. But the spirit of South Carolina lives in terms of great pride of history, maybe not all the history, but great pride of being an original colony. There's a lot of British influence still remains, even in my hometown. I'm from a place called Camden, South Carolina. A lot of Cornwallis House. I mean, I could throw a rock and hit some type of placard that talks about the British and British influence on Camden, but South Carolina specifically. And so I think just having that upbringing and that relationship to history, you can't tell me by looking at the map now that South Carolina is not the South, because I'm looking at the same map you're looking at, but it's similar to if I'm the oldest child, right, and we lived in this particular house, Then my mom and dad get divorced, remarried, they get some new kids. And the young kids want to tell me how things are. And I was like, hey, man, you wasn't even here. Like, you just showed up. Hey, similar. So I think similar to fraternity sororities, like they're chapters in our fraternity that their chapter were founded in the 30s. You know, matter of fact, South Carolina State is a chapter, Alpha Lambda, founded like 1931, if I'm not mistaken. So let's imagine that some guys like a Clemson. Clemson, I think that chapter was founded there, Kappa Lambda. So that I think they're the 80s. They were like 79, 80s. Imagine Clemson telling Alpha Lambda how things are in the fraternity. It's like, yeah, they might be that way now, but let me tell you why. There's a disconnect, and I feel like there's a level of like you're not honoring your elders. Like, mind your manners, Texas. Pipe down. And even to the degree of like real cities, I don't think South Carolina is a real city because South Carolina, Delaware is the first state. Dover is probably the only city I can think about in Delaware. I don't think they have any a strong economy and vibrant diversity and growth. I think states that are a little younger compared to South Carolina have the ability to do those things. That's why they do have real cities, because South Carolina, especially, you know, my hometown where I'm from, I think we just got our first Planet Fitness maybe 3 years ago. Because in South Carolina, in how I grew up, they were very focused on keeping things the way that they were. Mom and pop shops, no chain stuff. Restaurants. We had fast food places, but there were no chains. If you wanted to go to the restaurant, you were going to O'Malley's, or you're going to the family ran business. And I know in Camden, and then maybe in South Carolina specifically, because I don't know much. I don't pay attention to a lot of other states. But innovation and modernizing didn't happen because there were people that had the ability to disallow it. There were people that were like, oh no, we are the powers that be. We're these four families. These four families want things to stay the same. They basically stayed the same. Those four families were in political offices and they got political clout. And so they were able to, it's kind of like if you grew up in a small church and, you know, these two families were running this church, and, you know, people come in with these ideas and, hey, you need to do things different. Now y'all go to that big church up the street, but here in this small church, we still sing hymns. We still, pastor stands at the back of the door and shakes it. Like, that's how we are able to not have real cities, because there was such a desire to keep things the way that they are. So I just need to say that from the mind of Mike, that when people are talking to me about South Carolina, specifically not being the South, it just blows my mind. If you're just telling me about, you're looking at the map, because if you're looking at the map, you're you're not bringing into account all the context. You know, the 50 states, they didn't all drop down at one time, like plump down in here. Now we have the United States. It's like, nah, man, we the OGs. Like, we was here. Now, am I living in a time going past? I don't know. I'm just telling you how I've learned. I mean, we spend a lot of time learning South Carolina history, which there was 57 years worth of that before Texas. Texas was the 28th state. Like, for all these other states that's barking at us and telling us we're not who we are, I'm like, you're not who you are. Like, you. And so it really threw me for a loop. It threw me for a loop. So I'm gonna do some material, because my buddy was basically saying, I mean, he was on fire. He was just like, I'm looking at the map. How do you like, you're not the South? And I'm like, if South Carolina's not South, my name's not Mike Goodwin. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not an African American male. Like some my life is not, something's not real. Something's it's like finding out you were adopted. No, man, we're the South. Matter of fact, the South was predicated upon us. Now y'all, other people showed up, and now you want to tell folks what is terms and what things mean, which is, again, all the history is not great history. I'm not here to wave the Confederate flag. I'm just trying to provide some perspective that, hey man, folks from South Carolina really do have a high regard to when this state was founded, and just the legacy and lineage of the state, and then the state being one of the original states that was founded. Well, thank y'all for tuning in to another podcast. That was pretty raw. I haven't got all the edges. I haven't shined it up. So it was a pretty raw episode, because I'm trying to keep the time. Somebody did shout out and say thank you for going a longer, but I really do. I really try to keep the time to where if you were doing 30 minutes on a treadmill, that by the time you end the podcast, you're almost done. You finished. If you have a little commute, you listen to an episode and it's a wrap. So thank y'all for tuning in. I had some other things I wanted to talk about, but I will talk about those things on the next podcast, more than likely. But thank y'all for tuning in. Send any kind of feedback. Online's great. Folks are commenting on the Facebook, on the YouTube, on the YouTube page. That's great. You can email me at info@comedianmikegoodwin.com. You can follow me on my social media accounts. Also, make sure that you're checking in with the Big Dad Energy Tour. I'm coming to the Carolinas. I'll be in Greenville, South Carolina on July 18th, which is my birthday. July 19th, I'll be in Hickory, North Carolina. July 20th, Greensboro, and the 21st, Charlotte, North Carolina. Let people know, get the word out. Folks are like, oh, when you coming into Alabama? And I was like, I was just in Alabama. So I'm going to do all that I could do to make sure I'm communicating these upcoming Big Dad Energy Date Tours. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Best Advice Ever podcast. I'll see you next time. Same bad channel, same bad place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. Peace.